The train was late. A soft drizzle whispered against the glass ceiling of Union Station, painting half-formed shapes that disappeared as fast as they came. People moved like currents, heels clacking, voices rising, announcements humming overhead. And in the middle of all that noise, she stood still. Her fingers curled tighter around the handle of a small, worn suitcase. The leather was cracked at the corners, faded to a dull chestnut from years of being dragged behind her in places she never meant to stay. Her other hand, gloved in soft gray wool, rested against her chest like she was holding something in. The red scarf around her neck fluttered as the wind slipped through the station doors. Not just red, carnelian, almost blood-deep. The kind of red you remember from a bad memory. Or a promise. She didn't blink when the crowd surged past her. Her eyes stayed locked on Gate 9B, where a man with thinning hair and a too-familiar smirk stepped off the platform with a paper cup in his hand and a Bluetooth headset clipped to his ear. He was laughing, loudly, unbothered. He hadn't seen her yet. Her jaw clenched, but no sound came. She moved her thumb to trace the corner of a sticker still clinging to the suitcase, one of those generic motivational slogans in cheap gold foil: say it. Mean it. Win. She hadn't bothered to peel it off. Maybe it reminded her of the exact kind of people she was trying to leave behind. Or maybe, deep down, she wanted to own the phrase in a way they never meant it. She stepped back, letting a woman with a crying toddler brush past her. She didn't mind. Not today. Her phone buzzed in her coat pocket. She didn't answer. She just stared at him, still laughing, still smug, and felt her breath catch, sharp and metallic like the edge of a bitten tongue. A small shake started in her fingers, traveled up her wrist. She pressed them flat against her side to stop it. But her mind wandered, uninvited, back to that day in the office. That voice. That laugh. Her stutter. His impression. The choking sound of his fake repetition, her words, twisted and cruel. Laughter in the room. No one stopping him. No one looking at her. He still hadn't seen her. But he would. Maybe not here. Maybe not now. But soon. She adjusted the red scarf slowly, carefully, like wrapping silence around a storm. Then, finally, she turned toward the exit. And left the station with her eyes dry and her suitcase rolling behind her like an old secret. She stood just outside the station now, the rain finer than before, more like a mist resting on skin than falling from the sky. Her scarf clung damply to her neck. She didn't move to fix it. The suitcase bumped against the curb as she stepped down onto the sidewalk, wheels stuttering like they, too, were reluctant to go forward. Across the street, under the pale orange glow of the street lamp, she watched a girl, maybe 8 or 9, run into her father's arms, her pink backpack swinging wildly. The man dropped his coffee without caring, just scooped the girl up, forehead to hers, both of them laughing. Her throat tightened. Her own father used to do that. She remembered the way he'd crouch beside her when she was little and tap her suitcase before every trip. It's not about where it takes you. It's what you're strong enough to carry. Back then, it had been blue, with cartoon whales on it. She'd cried when the zipper broke. He'd replaced it with this one. Leather, heavy. Adult. She hadn't been ready for it then. She wasn't sure she was ready now. The man from the station, the one with the laugh, was long gone. Probably in a cab or a black car, off to another meeting, another smug grin over lunch. He hadn't recognized her. Not yet. She reached for her phone again. The screen glowed, meeting link, 3 p.m. board plus CEO, her thumb hovered over it. She had 22 minutes. 22 minutes until he'd log in, seated in his expensive ergonomic chair, expecting to greet the new investors. Still unaware that she was the one waiting at the other end. Still unaware that his stuttering intern had cashed out every last savings bond, leveraged a brutal angel investor pitch, and acquired his flailing firm under a quiet shell LLC. It had cost her everything. Nights without sleep. One broken engagement. Half her credit destroyed. But she'd learned. She'd learned how to speak. How to lead. How to own silence. She looked up. A stranger stood near the wall under a dripping awning, tall, hands in coat pockets, face unreadable. He wasn't staring exactly, but he wasn't looking away either. Just watching her like someone who'd seen something familiar in her stillness. She nodded, polite. He said nothing. The scarf slipped from her shoulder, caught in the wind. She turned to grab it. Her suitcase tipped slightly on its side. One of the wheels had come loose. She stared at it. Something about that felt right. Nothing was meant to roll smoothly anymore. Not this part. She tightened the scarf, eyes darting toward the street. Taxis passed like slow blurs of yellow. Then, her phone buzzed again. A final reminder. She didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, she stood there, staring into the rain, heartbeat crawling up her throat. And for one long, breathless moment, she didn't know if she was ready to walk back in. The rain picked up. Not hard, not yet, but heavier than mist now, enough to make her blink against it. She stood still, her suitcase leaning like it, too, was exhausted. Across the street, the man under the awning hadn't moved. The longer she stood there, the more details formed through the haze. His coat was decent, but his shoes, scuffed, edges frayed, told another story. He shifted his weight occasionally, like someone used to standing for long hours. Maybe too proud to sit. Maybe nowhere else to go. And then, he took out a wallet. Worn leather, nearly splitting at the seams. He opened it slowly, not like he was looking for money. Just, holding something. She could barely see it, but there it was. A photo. A little boy. Smiling. Reaching out of frame. He ran his thumb along the edges. Not looking at the photo, feeling it. As if he'd memorized it long ago but needed to confirm it still existed. She swallowed hard. The cold slipped into her sleeves. She turned her eyes down to her own hands, fingers still trembling slightly. She clenched them. This wasn't about pity. She couldn't afford that. But something about him. She'd felt this once before. Back when she was 10, standing outside a private school classroom, the words on her tongue trapped and tangled, as a teacher's voice on the other side laughed lightly. She'll never keep up if she can't even say her own name. She hadn't walked in then. She'd just turned around. She thought she'd buried that version of herself. Now, looking across the street, she wasn't sure. A horn blared in the distance. Thunder cracked low behind it, like the sky was trying to clear its throat. Her phone buzzed again. 3:03 p.m. She was late. But she didn't move. He looked up just then. Eyes meeting hers, not startled. Not ashamed. Just open. The kind of look that made you wonder if he already knew who you were. Or maybe, what you were about to do. The wind pulled her scarf again. She didn't fix it this time. For a second, she thought about walking over. Asking his name. Asking why he hadn't looked away. But what would that do? She had a man to fire. A board to face. A part of herself to bury for good. And yet, her feet wouldn't move. A taxi slowed in front of her. The driver tapped the glass. She blinked, startled. "Miss?" he asked through the cracked window. Her lips parted. Nothing came out. She looked back toward the man. But he was gone. vanished into the wet air like he'd never been there. Or like he'd only existed long enough for her to see herself. The cab idled beside her, wipers clicking like a metronome for a song she couldn't hear anymore. The driver glanced at the time, then at her reflection in the mirror. Impatient, but polite. She barely noticed. She turned away. Just one last look. The awning across the street was empty now, except her scarf. It hung there, caught on a rusted nail, the carnelian red wet and heavy like a blood-soaked ribbon. She hadn't even realized it had slipped off. And beneath it, at the foot of the wall, her suitcase. Not the one at her feet. The old one. Blue. Wales. Broken zipper. No. That wasn't possible. She stepped forward, then back. Her fingers brushed her current bag's handle just to feel something real. The cab driver sighed audibly. A couple walking past glanced at her, their pace quickening as if they didn't want to get too close. She looked lost. Or worse, undecided. Some people carry more than just bags, they carry silence. That voice, her father's, rose in her head again, soft like wind through tall grass. Her breath caught. She crossed the street. Not fast. Not slow. Just, like someone pulled by something they couldn't explain. When she reached the wall, there was no suitcase. Just a small folded note tucked beneath the scarf. The paper was damp at the corners. Her hands trembled as she opened it. It doesn't matter if you stutter when you speak. Some people stutter when they live. Go say the thing they're afraid to hear. No name. No explanation. Only a line in the middle, underlined twice. Silence is a kind of scream. Her knees weakened, and for a moment, she crouched down, scarf in her lap, like a child again, trying to hold too many pieces. Behind her, someone muttered, "You okay, lady?" Not concerned, just annoyed. A passerby. A world that moved too fast for moments like these. She stood. Clutched the scarf against her chest. The station's glass doors reflected her back at herself. Hair clinging to her cheek, eyes wide and uncertain, suitcase crooked, scarf wet like a second skin. But something in her posture had shifted. No longer bowed. Not quite straight. But, braced. She turned back once more. The awning, the street, the rain, empty. Quiet. Not lonely. Just waiting. The cab had left. She hadn't even heard it go. She gripped the suitcase and walked slowly toward the building where the meeting waited, toward the screen where he would appear. And though the scarf weighed heavy with rain, she wore it like armor. Still soaked. Still shaking. But ready to speak. She reached the office lobby, marble floors, silver trim, cold light reflecting off every surface. The elevator doors opened with a mechanical sigh, and she stepped inside, heart thrumming like static. Floor 32. Executive Conference. Her name was on the calendar as owner rep, D. Voss, a name she'd created, paper thin but legally binding. No one here knew her face. As the elevator climbed, her fingers brushed the scarf again, still damp, clinging to her like a second breath. The note, now folded and hidden in her coat pocket, felt like it pulsed with its own heartbeat. Silence is a kind of scream. She repeated it silently. A mantra. A warning. Ding. The doors opened. Glass walls, long table, 9 chairs. The room was empty, the monitor blinking with the Zoom logo and waiting participants. She had 7 minutes. She moved to the head seat. Her hands hovered over the laptop. Then she saw it. A file. Left carelessly open on the desk. Printed. Company headed. Internal. She didn't mean to read it. But her eyes caught the top line before she could stop herself. Final candidate review, CEO consideration. Her breath hitched. There, bolded and underlined, D. Voss, declined below it, another name. One she hadn't expected. Grant Ellison. Her old boss. The man she was about to fire. The man who, somehow, was already being positioned to lead the company she just bought. She flipped the page. His file was thick. Highlighted. Someone had advocated for him. And then, taped to the final page, a photo. A little girl. Maybe 5. Red scarf around her neck. Whales on her backpack. Her smile was wide, gap-toothed. Written beneath it, in ink, in memory of Callie. Let's build something she'd be proud of. Her chest tightened. She staggered back a step, hand on the edge of the table. The scarf. The man under the awning. The note. It wasn't just a stranger's kindness. It was his. Grant Ellison. Her former boss. The man who'd mocked her. The man with the smirk. But also a man with worn shoes. A photo in his wallet. And a daughter who used to wear whales on her back. Her father's words echoed again. It's not about where it takes you. It's what you're strong enough to carry. She hadn't come this far to flinch. But the weight of it, of all of it, slammed into her like a second storm. The Zoom call pinged alive. His name appeared first. Grant E., waiting to be let in. Her hand hovered over the mouse. This was the point of no return. She took one deep breath. And clicked admit. The screen flickered. Grant's face appeared, older than she remembered, but no less sharp. His suit was crisp, tie slightly loose, like always. He didn't smile. Didn't smirk. Just stared into the camera with tired eyes. Hello, he said, then paused. His brow furrowed. I know you. She didn't respond. Just sat still in the glow of the monitor, letting the silence stretch. He leaned forward, squinting slightly. Eliza. His voice dropped. You're the intern you laughed at, she finished, quiet. A flicker crossed his face. Not shame. Not guilt. Recognition. I didn't mean it like that, he said. It was a joke. Everyone laughed, she replied. Her voice didn't shake. Except me. He looked down for a long moment. When he finally spoke, it wasn't the words she expected. My daughter stuttered, he said. The air in the room thinned. She was 5 when she started. No reason. Just, one day, she couldn't get her words out. He reached beside him and lifted something into view. A small blue backpack with faded whales. It was real. She used to tell me she was afraid of the way the world would hear her, he continued. And I told her to toughen up. I thought if I could joke about it, it wouldn't hurt her so much. His voice cracked. She died in a car crash 2 years ago. The scarf in your lap was hers, she whispered. He nodded. You left it at the station. I knew it the second I saw it. Knew you. A long pause. I deserve to be fired, he said. But before you do, I want to tell you something. I recommended you for CEO. Even before I knew it was you behind the buyout. Your work, your pitch, your silence in the meetings, it spoke. A faint, sad smile touched his face. You remind me of her. But you're not her. You made it out. She felt something break inside her. Not from pain, but from the strange weight of forgiveness being handed to someone who never asked for it. She looked down at the scarf. Still damp. Still warm. She reached off-screen, picked up a slim package, and unwrapped the silk carefully. Inside, the original whale print suitcase. She had kept it all these years, broken, patched, but whole. "I came here to fire you," she said. "To humiliate you the way you humiliated me." He said nothing. "But I think, some people carry more than just bags," she whispered. "They carry silence. And regret." She held up the scarf. "I think she'd want you to have this back." His lips parted. But he didn't speak. She clicked end meeting. The screen went dark. Later, she stood at Union Station again. Same glass ceiling. Same drifting crowds. But this time, she wasn't still. She was moving. A little boy tugged at his mother's coat nearby, pointing at her suitcase. "Whales," he laughed. She smiled, hand brushing the case. "Not every stranger you help is meant to stay, but some leave you changed forever." The city was quieter now. Rain had dried, leaving the sidewalk streaked in silver like the world had been washed clean and left to dry in soft sunlight. She walked alone. No suitcase. No scarf. Just a light bag over her shoulder and the steady rhythm of her boots on pavement. Her posture was different now, still quiet, still observant, but no longer shrinking. At a small corner cafe, she ordered tea. Sat by the window. Watched people pass. She didn't need noise to feel present. Back home, the red scarf rested in the top drawer of her desk, folded with care. The suitcase, the one with whales, sat under a patch of sunlight in her entryway. Not hidden. Not displayed. Just there. Like memory. Her laptop remained closed that morning. The offer to chair the company board still sat in her inbox. She hadn't replied. She wasn't sure if she would. She looked out at the world with softened eyes, the hum of traffic like background music to a story only she knew. Sometimes love is not romance, it's recognition. Her father's voice again. Not loud. Just present, like breath against the ear. She thought of Grant, of how a cruel laugh could hold the shadow of a broken heart. Of how revenge had lost its sharpness the moment she understood him. And she thought of Callie, the girl she'd never meet, who stuttered once and carried whales on her back. Maybe they'd both been carrying each other, unknowingly. Maybe some names don't belong on gravestones or company memos, but in the quiet shifts of people becoming someone else. A little girl passed by the cafe window, holding her dad's hand. She wore a purple jacket and mismatched socks. Her hair was tangled. Her eyes sparkled. She paused by the glass and made a funny face. Eliza smiled. There was no grand ending. No fireworks. Just that subtle, aching beauty of something finally unclenched. She rose. Left her cup half full. Walked out without looking back. The wind touched her hair. The street stretched ahead like a new page. And as she crossed into the soft hush of afternoon light, one thought remained, settling not in her chest, but deeper, where words often fail. Sometimes we forgive not because they deserve it, but because we deserve to let go.